The neon vacancy sign threatened to sputter out for good as June, and Cassidy limped their battered Camry into the last parking slot behind the Sundown Motel. It was just past midnight on the Kingman outskirts, the sky bruised purple over Route 66, and they'd been living out of that car for 12 nights now. A cardboard box of gas station dinners, a zip duffel, and their mother's ashes in a cheap urn wedged by the handbrake. Those were the sum total of their lives. $862.40 between their two accounts. The morning would bring another visit to the county office, and the laugh that always followed when they handed over their claim. $200 for a rusted-out underground bunker near the highway. That was all their mother had left them. Cassidy killed the engine, breathing dust as her hands trembled on the wheel. Her hair, once black, was ropey and oily now, faded on the ends. June fished a wrinkled sheet from the glove compartment, a photocopy of a property transfer, barely legible. She pressed her knuckles to her lips. "Well, Cass," she whispered, "tomorrow's the deadline. One more signature and it's gone to tax forfeiture forever." Cassidy snorted, voice raw. "Good riddance. Who wants a death trap silo anyway? It's a sick joke." June held the paper up to the pink glow. "She left it for us for a reason. Mom didn't do things by mistake. We're sleeping in a parking lot because she trusted the wrong people. Open your eyes, June." Outside, a exile knifed through the desert hush. Inside the car, the sisters pressed their foreheads together, silent old grief swirling in the stagnant air. June's mind flashed to their stepfather's smirk as he loaded their mother's jewelry into his Ford, claiming their mother had wanted him to have it all. The lawyer's voice, "I'm sorry, girls. Sheriff Ward and Mayor Briscoe believe your mom wasn't of sound mind when she revised the will. Nothing for you except the old bunker." Their insults still stung. "When your whole life shrinks to a suitcase," June muttered, "you start looking for crumbs." Cassidy tugged the keys shut, sealing them in gritty darkness. At 2 a.m., June's tired fingers found an unfamiliar envelope wedged between seat cushions. Addressed to her in their mother's swirling script, it had a faded Arizona bank return label. She paled, holding it up. "She hid it," June whispered, urgency in her voice. "What is it?" Cassidy snapped, sleep drunk. "My name on the front, yours too. We never saw this." June tore it open, a single silver key tumbling onto her lap. There was a brief, cryptic note, "Check under the old corn silo. Trust yourself, not them. The hatch is deeper than they ever checked." Cassidy's jaw tightened. "This is insane. That silo's nothing but dirt and snakes." June's eyes narrowed, resolve flickering. "If you've ever had the world say you don't count, if you've ever clung to a secret just to keep hope alive, don't look away. What we found changed everything." Dawn arrived mean and blinding, sunlight bouncing off the burned hood as the sisters slung their bags across cracked blacktop. The county office would open in 5 hours. They needed answers first. The wasted property lay 12 miles out, past the half-rotted irrigation ditches and leaning power poles. Cassidy insisted she drive. The Camry barely started on the first twist, and they hurtled up the broken frontage road past Cholla and Mesquite. June's hands shook as she read the directions out loud, retracing the route her mother must have taken. "She never brought us here," she murmured, voice ragged. "Not even when we begged." "Maybe she wanted to forget," Cassidy answered, chewing the inside of her cheek. "I would have." As they crested the final rise, dusk bleeding amber through ghost cottonwoods, June recalled the funeral. No stepfather, no friends, just her and Cassidy and a single wilting wreath. 3 weeks since the burial, and every photo of their mother had vanished from the old house. He scrubbed her clean from memory. June swallowed bitterness. The corn silo lurked behind a barbed fence, half collapsed, its steel skin mottled red and brown. Sage and tumbleweed strangled the perimeter. They shouldered through the wire, jeans catching on the thorns. "How many people you think died out here in the 60s? Cassidy asked, forcing a laugh. "These places always got stories." June crouched, searching for the hatch. The note said deeper than anyone checked. They scraped through layers of gravel and scorched, cracked earth. Cassidy found the first anomaly. Her boot struck something metallic with a muted clang. "June, here." They clawed away 2 feet of dirt with numb fingers, rust and earth clinging to their nails. Cassidy's curses grew louder, her hands blistering. Eventually, June brushed aside the last layer, revealing a mottled ring of steel, buried in the center, an ancient padlock. June's hands shook. "Your key, try it." Cassidy crammed the silver key into the padlock. It groaned, shuddered, then gave way. They heaved the heavy trapdoor aside. Hot air from below wafted up, damp and sour. It was more than a bunker. They slid down one at a time, June first, landing hard on dust-caked concrete. The darkness inside pressed in, swallowing sound and hope alike. Cassidy flicked on her phone's flashlight, illuminating crumbling brickwork, a battered desk, and a pile of yellowed blueprints rubber-banded together. "Blueprint?" she said, incredulous. "I think so," June replied, brushing spiderwebs away. "They're stamped Harold Carden. That's Mom's maiden name. These are old patents. What are they for?" Cassidy inspected one, brow furrowing. "Some kind of water purifier, solar condenser. Wait, this is from '68. It's got her dad's name, not hers." "They must have hidden these down here when everyone else gave up the farm," June murmured, skimming manuscript pages, some written in their mother's careful print, some in blocky, unfamiliar hands. "Look, this drawer." She yanked open a battered file cabinet. Inside was a thin leather binder, a coin envelope taped to the cover. There, nestled inside, was a check for $5 million drawn from a Kingman Community Trust, payable to June and Cassidy, dated 6 years ago. June's breath stilled. Cassidy's legs gave out. "Is this Jesus, June? Is that real?" I don't know. Why would she hide this?" As they huddled together, Cassidy's phone vibrated with a new email, automated, from the county assessor. 30 days until property forfeiture. Action required. June's voice barely more than a whisper. "They all told us she was crazy, but she outfoxed them. She knew they'd come for it." Cassidy stared at the check, still numb. "If we turn this in, they'll say it's forged or stolen. Both Sheriff Ward and Mayor Briscoe wanted us off this land from day one. They'll bury this again if we let them." June's eyes caught on a brittle envelope buried deep in the folder, a letter from her mother, sealed with wax, dated near the end. She cracked it open, hands trembling, and started to read aloud. "My darlings, if you're here, they've probably told you I lost my mind. You must not believe them. Ward and Briscoe ran your father out, took what was ours, made sure no one would listen. The pats you see here, they belong to Pop, but they stole ideas for themselves and let the land rot. You were just children then, but you saw more than they thought." Cassidy buried her head in her arms. June's voice broke, but she kept going. "These men will stop at nothing to erase you as they erased me, but proof is here. Share what you find, not with lawyers, but with the world. Let them see what happened to us. The vault is yours because my love for you was always deeper than their hate." Tears smeared ink as June's hand drifted over the signature. Cassidy blinked, vision jumping between the blueprints and the check. "What about the patents? Are these even worth something?" June's throat was tight. "If they're real, we're holding not just this money, but tech companies' secret nightmares." Cassidy put the check down, her voice ragged. "We've got to get out before someone sees, before they come." They climbed back into the burning sun with dirt in their hair, white-lipped and shaking. Back at the Camry, June turned to her sister. "We need real counsel, a voice that can't be bought." Cassidy's fists clenched. "I know a guy, used to work with the Arizona Free News. Ruskin Harris wrote about all those land scandals up past Holbrook." June shot her a look, surprise flickering. "You trust him?" "No," Cassidy grunted, "but he hates the sheriff more than I do." They pulled onto the main drag, heading into town. In the passenger seat, June scrolled through brittle patent numbers, cross-referencing them on her phone. The solar condenser design, practically identical to what a major energy company rolled out 3 years ago. The name on the patent, not Carden, not anyone she recognized. A sandstorm whipped up as they pulled into the news office, tumbleweeds battering the stoop, paint peeling from the sign. Cassidy banged twice. The lock turned. Ruskin, in his wrinkled khakis and desert boots, answered, mug of bitter coffee in hand. "I heard you got yourself evicted by family," Ruskin said, voice gravelly. "Step inside, girls. Don't touch anything expensive. It's all busted anyway." Inside smelled of old newspapers and mildew. June pushed the blueprints across the battered desk. "We need you to tell us if this is real and if it's dangerous." Ruskin riffled through the file, face unreadable. "Where'd you dig all this up?" Cassidy leaned in, defensive. "Mom had ancestors who died on this land. They left these under a silo." Ruskin grunted, flipping through the patent file. "These have been in disputes for years. You realize what the solar condenser does, right? Kingman Corp paid a fortune for a patent matching this, only it's not in your family name. Someone laundered it through the county." June bit her lip. "We have a check from a trust, $5 million. We don't know what's safe to show." Ruskin's eyebrows shot up. "Ward's got legal friends, but this is federal-level fraud. With the mayor in, it's a racket." Cassidy swallowed. Our time's almost up. 30 days or the deed's trashed. He pulled out a battered calendar, circling the date. If you want to burn them, you need sun. If you want justice, you use shadow. You want proof, you give it to everyone at once. No gatekeepers. June exhaled shakily. A podcast YouTube. Ruskin grinned, teeth coffee stained. You upload from here and pray your connection's faster than their anger. Cassidy stared out the window. Mom wanted the world to know. She said, don't trust lawyers. Ruskin shook his head, resigning. She was right. For the first time, hope cracked through the desert gloom. That night, as dusk slid down the canyon walls, Cassidy fielded a call from a blocked number. Sheriff Ward's gruff voice slipped through the static. Girls, I hear you've been poking around. Leave well enough alone and we'll see about getting your car back from impound. Don't make trouble. Cassidy snarled, we see trouble every time we look in the mirror, Sheriff. He paused. What do you think you got? It don't mean much. Judge won't blink at a couple runaways. She hung up. June's pulse thudded. We have to move now before they find us. Ruskin's voice was calm. You've got the mother lode, but they'll come for you if you flinch. They stashed the originals in Ruskin's old safe, then drove in the dark to an abandoned church, phones dimmed. As they waited, June reread the last letter, knuckles white. Next morning, Ruskin brought in his old partner, a patent expert named Lyle, white beard, hands trembling but his eyes razor sharp. He spread the pages, analyzing signatures and ink. These are real. Mayor's cousin signed here, covering corporate money laundering in 2008. You can depend on one thing, make enough noise, and the buzzards'll turn on each other. June pressed, what would you do with this? He smiled, almost kindly. Let the world see, upload everything. Whole countries living online, you let millions judge before any courthouse can. Cassidy looked at June, eyes steely, ready to risk it. Born ready, June answered, voice thin. That evening, Ruskin set up microphones, sound pads, and his old laptop. Speak plain, girls, don't flinch, don't get angry, lay out the ugliness, let truth do the bleeding. They recorded in the ruined church, windows boarded, candlelight flickering on the blueprints, and the check as June told their story step by step, lie by lie, loss by loss. Cassidy's voice cut through the recording. They said our mother was mad for believing in us. They told us we'd never deserve a future. We're here to prove them wrong on air, in print, and with these facts. Ruskin edited the raw show, then hit upload. Within 24 hours, the podcast reached 100,000 listens. Screenshots of the patents, images of forged signatures, and a blurred-out portion of the trust check flooded Reddit, Twitter, and local Facebook groups. Cassidy's phone buzzed nonstop as anonymous tips rolled in. One email read, Mayor Briscoe's wife moved 40 grand between personal accounts the day after the patents sold. Another, Ward's brother was manager at the buyer's law firm. June met each revelation with a dry, grateful smile. Their mother was right, they couldn't trust lawyers, but sunlight witness outraged those lived in the open. The outcry broke open the dam. State investigators drove up from Phoenix, setting up shop in the Kingman Library. The county courthouse phone lines rang until midnight. It wasn't enough. 3 days later, Mayor Briscoe arrived at the church, badge gleaming, 2 deputies in tow. Cassidy stood her ground. He smiled, almost friendly. Ladies, big loud claims for some losers. Got yourselves a moment in the sun, huh? June barely blinked. You ruined our mother's name. We have the proof. Briscoe's smile flickered. You have fakes. County word's worth more than 2 orphans. Cassidy snapped. It's not your word anymore. Arizona State's involved now. We have all the originals. The deputies looked uneasy. Briscoe's bluff was wearing thin. Walk away now or we'll press trespassing charges. This land's not yours till the tax office says so. June raised the blueprints, voice stale-edged. These are dated and notarized. It's bigger than one backwater town. Briscoe stared. Give me those. Final warning. Ruskin stepped out of the shadow. You threatening these girls in front of a reporter and a recording camera, Mayor. Briscoe swallowed. No cameras, all off. Cassidy snapped a photo, making sure the flash burned. It's already live. June leveled her gaze at the deputies. Your badge means nothing if the law is dirty. Who signs your pay stubs? One deputy paled, the other stepped back. I think this is a civil issue, Mayor. Briscoe ground his teeth, pivoted, and spat on the ground. You're making a scene out of nothing. Ruskin laughed low and wild. You want a scene, stick around for tomorrow's paper. Briscoe wiped his brow. Cassidy called out as he retreated, we're not running, we're not your victims. Inside, June and Cassidy sorted every file, scanned them, uploaded compressed folders to online drives, CC'd to 3 major investigative outlets. By midnight, YouTube notifications pinged, the story trending, #Kingman scandal, dirty patents, justice for Cardins. The state attorney general herself emailed them, Ms. Cardin, please secure all physical evidence. Law enforcement will be in contact. Your safety is paramount. Relocate if threatened. Thank you for your public service. They set up camp in the battered church, sleeping in turns. On day 6, a local news van screeched up, live cameras rolling. Cassidy spoke first, voice unwavering. We grew up believing the system protected the truth. They told us we had nothing, but the secrets in that bunker belong to this county, every one of us who loves the land. Mayor Briscoe and Sheriff Ward built their empires on lies. We're not hiding, not anymore. June glanced to the reporter. We're ready for whatever comes next. By that afternoon, an emergency session convened at county court. The sisters sat with Ruskin, the courthouse packed with angry residents and rubberneckers. Briscoe paced the sidewalk, jaw rigid, and Ward tried to enter through a back door, only to be shoved aside by state police. The judge, an outsider from Prescott, addressed the court. Evidence is overwhelming. Multiple public officials appear to have conspired to defraud heirs, launder assets, and profit personally. The court orders all properties and funds associated with the Cardin patents seized pending outcome. The estate is to be released to June and Cassidy Cardin. Cassidy let out the breath she'd held for 3 weeks. A ripple of applause rose, first tentative, then rowdy. Briscoe shoved through the crowd, demanding to speak. You don't understand, Your Honor. The Cardin girls are troublemakers, not victims. The judge leaned forward. Every safe deposit slip, every patent document, every bank wire says otherwise. This isn't your town anymore. Sheriff Ward, face gone gray, tried one last time. Folks round here want peace. These girls bring nothing but trouble. June finally stood, her voice rough but steady, reached every row. We buried our mother alone. You tried to erase what she gave us, but we are still here, and now so is the truth. Ward's jaw worked. He muttered, You'll regret this. The courthouse erupted. Reporters, townspeople, and even a delegation from the energy company hovered like vultures. But the only story that mattered was already out in the open. The patterns of fraud, the hidden trust, the stolen patents. Mayor Briscoe was driven out of City Hall, his house repossessed to pay damages. Sheriff Ward was indicted for conspiracy, asset forfeiture, and official misconduct. Their properties, homes, accounts, even the land under their feet, transferred under court order. National news broadcast their faces. Neighbors crossed the street instead of waving. 31 days after their midnight arrival, June and Cassidy unlocked the door to the Cardin Ranch house, their ancestral home left for them at last. It smelled of dust and old pine, hope thickening in the air. For the first time, there was no need to hide or to run. Repairs started. Local volunteers came unannounced, roofers, gardeners, former classmates, women who remembered their mother and smiled sadly. Each year, the sisters hosted a gathering, family by blood and by kindness, for everyone who'd stood with them. No one left hungry and no one left unknown. June, once the one who was always afraid, took the head of the table. Cassidy, who never forgave easily, learned to laugh again. Every wall of the old place bore proof of their struggle. A photo of their mother, faded blueprints framed in the parlor, a copy of the title deed under glass. The world would go on lying for power, but here, in this canny onside home, with the wind rattling the boards and new voices at the table, memory and truth became tools for building, not weapons for keeping others down. Hope, it turned out, was not a limited inheritance after all. If you have ever watched someone bury your family's story and call it justice, then let June and Cassidy's fight be proof that secrets rot in darkness, but roots run deeper than you think. What they grew from dust, against threat, against theft, could never be bulldozed by small men clinging to power. That finally was enough. It is never the spotlight that redeems. It is the quiet, daily work of believing your own worth until the evidence speaks so loudly, even the desert hush cannot drown it out. By the following spring, a cautious peace had settled over Kingman. News vans no longer idled by the highway, but the Cardin name, scorned for a generation, rode the wind again, this time whispered with respect. The sisters' victory had become an anchor for the scattered and the silenced, a story mothers repeated over dinner and teachers used as a lesson in grit and justice. But not everything healed so quickly. June often woke sweating, heart pounding to the echo of Ward's threat, "You'll regret this." During windstorm nights with the power blinking and the roof creaking, unease crept in. Cassidy kept a shotgun loaded behind the kitchen door just in case the past came prowling. And still, every piece of mail made them hesitate, braced for a summons signed with some old enemy's name. Summer came, blistering and gold, and brought with it a slow transformation. June took up the task of cataloging the patents, each fragile blueprint flattened and scanned, each faded letter preserved in acid-free sleeves. She partnered with a law professor from Tempe, a wiry woman named Dr. Rowe with a voice like gravel, to chase down false corporate filings and lock down their grandfather's legacy. Cassidy, meanwhile, threw herself into the land. With stubborn pride, she rebuilt the irrigation ditch, learned to patch the barn roof, seeded the old vegetable garden. "Work doesn't argue with you," she once told June, threading bean seeds through the loam with her thumb. "You plant and wait, and it comes back honest or not at all." Some afternoons, she'd drive the back roads in their resuscitated Camry, picking up litter, waving to old men at the gas station. Everywhere she went, people nodded but still looked twice. The attention waned as people grew used to the thought of justice sticking to the Cardins, of the sisters belonging to this land after so much time in exile. The mayor's name was sanded off every city park sign. Ward's badge hung in a state evidence vault. Quietly, neighbors began to reach out. Ms. Velasquez from the next parcel dropped by with fresh tortillas and honey for your table and your victory. A tangle-haired girl named Ruby left a note in the mailbox. "I want to be brave like you when I grow up." One morning in late July, June opened her inbox to a message from the Arizona Historical Trust. "We'd be honored to house the Cardin water condenser prototype for display. Your family's work belongs to history. Will you consider it?" She called Cassidy out on the porch. "They want to put Granddad's plans behind glass," June said, hope still struggling to outrun suspicion. "Not for money, for recognition. Maybe Mom'd. I think she'd want that." Cassidy cocked her head, considering. "If it stays here, it gets lost again next time someone greedy wins an election. You want him to belong to everyone." "I want his name to last," June replied. Cassidy finally nodded. "Then let's do it." So they packed the carefully restored prototype in bubble wrap, tucked the old man's blueprints into a battered briefcase, and loaded the Camry again, their first drive away from Kingman without the taste of running. On the museum steps, June placed the condenser, her grandfather's signature barely legible on its base, into Dr. Rowe's gloved hands. Cameras flashed. A gaggle of schoolchildren peered through the windows, whispering, "That's the Cardin thing, right? The one from the radio." Cassidy squeezed June's shoulder. "It's weird," she muttered. "Letting go even one thing, turns out being safe and seen are scarier than hiding. You think we should have just kept to ourselves?" Cassidy scoffed softly. "No, but I wish," her mouth twisted, hunting for words. "I wish Mom was here to see this. She never got to stop fighting." June smiled, her eyes wet. "She stopped when we started, now we keep it going." On the drive home, they barely spoke. June watched the sunset sweep cactus shadows across the valley floor and thought how strange it was. Everything they'd done so far was legacy and defense. What came next was truly theirs to build. Their second harvest brought more neighbors. Maria from the diner, her boys hauling up the first pumpkins. Wild Bill Tucker, once the town's biggest Ward loyalist, now red-faced and apologetic as he shared his welding tools to fix the windmill. Each visit peeled away another layer of isolation. Cassidy taught Ruby, their young pen pal, how to mend a torn fence. June baked twice as much bread as she'd ever intended, so no one could visit without taking home a loaf. One hot afternoon, Dr. Rowe called from the museum. "Reporters want an interview on your family's invention. National audience this time. Will you come?" June hesitated. "They'll want a neat answer. Was it worth all the pain?" Dr. Rowe's voice, dry as desert stone. "History's only neat if you leave the blood out. Come anyway." They agreed on a Sunday evening, the sun lowering through the kitchen window as Cassidy ironed a shirt for the first time in years. June found herself rehearsing answers aloud, pacing the living room barefoot. The reporter was a sharp-eyed woman with a notepad and a voice, gentle, that cut to the bone. "After the dust, after the courtrooms, would you have chosen this, to fight, to be so public?" Cassidy frowned. "No one chooses to lose everything first, but when they come for what little you have left, it's fight or disappear. We picked fight." June's hands fidgeted in her lap. You can't win for everyone, you just keep the door open behind you. What does justice look like now? Asked the reporter. June thought for a long time. It looks like not needing to hide your name. It looks like fixing what broke before us and making sure it can't be broken that way again. Cassidy added, it means next time someone tries to run a family off, they remember what happened here and maybe think twice. The interview ran nationwide. Overnight their inbox filled with stories: a New Mexico family driven off mineral land, a Dakota farm woman whose patent was stolen by a seed giant, a black couple near Winslow forced from their house in the 60s. Nobody listened then, but maybe they do now. The Cardin story became rallying ground for others who whispered about justice, then dared shout. Journalists dug up new scandals in the county. Laws were drafted in Phoenix: stricter protections for rural patents, stiffer penalties for fraudulent probate. Cassidy was invited to speak at the state university. June joined a panel on inheritance law and grassroots organizing. But court wins and headlines made the sisters no less vigilant. Twice a month, the Camry rattled out to the old silo. June kept the padlock tight, her phone set to film every step. They never forgot the taste of being hunted. In November, June received a battered letter postmarked Tucson, no return address. The pen inside was blocky, familiar, her stepfather. You win, it reads, the land is yours, the world knows your name. I never stopped believing it would all come to ruin. Guess you got more from your mother than I figured. Cassidy burned the letter in the stove, watched the script wither to ash. Another ghost, she declared. We owe him nothing. Life was not easy, not soft, but the solace of home built new habits. June wrote policies by lamplight, consulted on justice funds for those caught in bureaucratic jaws. Cassidy weatherproofed the house, grew roses by the porch, took in 2 stray dogs left at their gate. Moments of grace came in from the edges. The first time a bank manager called June by her last name and smiled. The night an elderly neighbor knocked, tearful, trusting the sisters to safeguard her deed and tell her story if she was cheated unfairly. One day, Cassidy said wistfully one evening as dusk bled into the canyons, people will forget what it cost us. They'll only know our names because some plaque says we won. June cupped her chin thoughtfully. Good, then they'll see what Cardin means now, not what it used to, not the suffering, the standing up. In time, a mural appeared on the side of the old county office, rough lines in red and gold, showing 2 girls facing a vast, unfurling desert, blueprints drifting around them like wings. Ruby, now bolder, brought June by the hand to see it. They said Miss Cardin saved the town, but we know it was both sisters, right? June knelt. It was 100 people all at once. It was you writing your note. It was everyone who believed us. Ruby hugged her fiercely. When I have trouble, I draw you both. Helps me remember to try. There were still hard days, hail flattening tomato sprouts, old-timers muttering at the market, bouts of restless sleep when June or Cassidy would wander the darkened house, checking every window, counting blessing and fear in equal measure. But the seasons unwound gently, beginning again. Raspberry canes in spring, wheat fields reborn after the drought broke, children skating on a makeshift pond winter afternoons. The Cardins, once synonymous with scandal, became trusted keepers of stories, fixers of fences, planters of seed. On what would have been their mother's birthday, Cassidy shoveled 2 feet of earth in the garden's heart and poured in a scoop of her ashes, mixing them with wildflower seeds. June stood beside her, hands steady on Cassidy's shoulder. She'd like this, Cassidy murmured. No monuments, just roots. June nodded. She's everywhere now. You feel bigger with her, not smaller. Time wouldn't stop for memory or pain. It tumbled onward, uncaring and wind-scoured. But now, for the first time, June and Cassidy carved their own place in it. The knowledge that they would not vanish, could not be erased, made each hour rich. Their story threaded itself into local legend, how 2 sisters, armed only with sorrow and stubborn love, dared to drag secrets into daylight and found not just restitution but community, the only inheritance worth fighting for. Twin pillars on the county's new seal, a church bell rung once each May for the day of truth. Years later, when outside reporters came, it was June's kitchen where they set down their coffee mugs and asked, "How did you survive so much?" June never hesitated. We had each other. That's how you outlast grief and injustice. Cassidy would laugh, and we never stopped moving. As soon as you sit down thinking you're done, life says different. One day that autumn, their mailbox held an envelope gold embossed from the state governor's office. The Arizona Medal of Merit, awarded to June and Cassidy for outstanding service to truth and justice and for the protection of inheritance rights for all Arizonans. Neither sister wept. They sat side by side on the porch, holding the letter between them like a new, fragile root. "We made something last," Cassidy said, voice soft as rain. "We made each other last," June replied. Beneath them the land sighed its old hush. The sun sank low and the wind ran gentle through fields at peace, no secrets, only the promise of spring. And in that quiet, every wound was just a seam, proof not of breakage, but of mending, and of the fierce, rooted love that can outlast even the hottest, harshest desert.